Think Live Be production.
3, 2, 1. Seeking the best, being my best. Do do da 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 da. Seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the best, 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 best.
Welcome to Seeking the Best, the podcast for growth-minded real estate agents seeking clarity, focus, and a better way forward. I'm your host, Kathryn Stelchus, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Patrick Vatika, our sound engineer, producer extraordinaire.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Oh, hey.
Get this microphone.
That was very much like a radio show voice. Hey, welcome to
Weather on the Ones.
Anyways, yes, good morning. We are here to talk about real estate as we do all the time. It's our thing. And thank you for joining us. If this is your first time joining us, I'm a real estate agent in Central Florida in the Orlando area. And this is my 20th year, 2026, if you're listening to this in the future. And so I've learned a lot of things over the years through just dealing with the day-to-day of being a real estate agent. And Patrick, besides being the sound engineer, producer extraordinaire, is also my husband.
That's true.
And he's been with me this whole crazy ride.
That's also true.
I almost said something else.
And Kat's being modest, as you, any new listeners will learn. Kathryn's also productivity coach at her brokerage, in the top 100 for 2026, right?
Out of like 20 something thousand,
top 100. So she's earned her stripes. So and then this season we're kind of delving into some lessons learned, right?
Yes, because through all of the fun times, the awards, the closings, the paychecks, all the fun stuff, there's been a lot of lessons, a lot of things that happened. I guess you could say good or bad.
Yeah.
That have happened that have changed the way that I do business, the way I think about things, my mindset, all the things that go into being a business owner. Yeah.
All the things that led to this point where you have been awarded as the top 100 agents.
Yeah, everything that's led
Florida.
To this point.
Oh, and didn't you just get another?
Oh,
we can't talk about that
no,
yet. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
You're about to spill the beans on things.
Yeah.
But anyways, yes. So I've learned a few things over the years, and my goal with this season, where we're talking about lessons I learned the hard way, is that hopefully if you're listening and, maybe this is your 3rd or 4th year or 10th year, wherever you're at in your journey, that I hope I save you some trouble.
Yeah. For sure.
And even if I don't save you some trouble, or, maybe just changing the way you think of things as you're moving forward to your next step.
Yeah, it's always good whenever Kathryn's listening to a podcast, and she listens to some other real estate podcasts, right? Or goes to Mega Camp or Family Reunion. You can't apply everything to it. Everything that you learn from somebody and stuff. But if you can get a few kernels of good ideas that are going to open your way of thinking down a new path and get some new synapses going.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how you get to that level that you want to be, is you just keep implementing new things, trying new things, seeing what works, trying to not make the same mistake twice. That's the whole idea, right?
Oh, you'll make the same mistake twice. When it comes to big mistakes, I think you can easily end up making the same mistake twice, because you're not a master at something just because you've done it once.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I'm not talking about little typos though.
Yeah,
Come on, guys.
Yeah, no, that's true. And you hope that, sometimes it takes, and we've covered this in this season, sometimes it takes having a pattern of things.
Yeah.
in order to be able to, by the time it happens the third time, you start to see the pattern and then you make the change, right? We always say, don't, just because something didn't work once or something was, you don't change the whole system based off of one thing. It's after you've seen it again and again, right? So
if you see something a couple times, it's probably time to take a deeper look.
And that's kind of what we're covering this season.
Yeah. And then there's been a few of, if you haven't listened to the whole season, go back and listen to, there's been a few that were just like specific moments in time.
Yeah.
That started a deeper conversation about how things should be.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
but
do you have something for this week?
Yeah, this week I'm going to tell a little story.
All right. Well,
I like telling stories.
All right. Then I'm all ears.
When I was about 10 years into the business, I started learning about growing a team and trying to figure out how to have leverage. I know, the title of our podcast kind of says it all. We're very much about becoming better versions of ourselves. And I kind of always have had that mindset of, I don't want to be like the same as I was yesterday. I want to improve. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to improve. I want to learn. I want to grow. 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 That comes in different forms, but with business, it comes with actually growing sales. I had gotten to a point where I felt like I needed leverage, and I had hired some administrative support and kind of gone through trial and error on that for a couple of years, and then finally was ready to take the next step in leverage where I would hopefully find somebody to help with buyers. As a real estate agent, what keeps you so busy is driving around town, showing houses, going to inspections, doing all the things that working with buyers is all about. And I had gotten to a point where I was just running around, and I wanted to be able to focus on what I thought I was best at, which was marketing and listing and developing a business. And so I hired my first buyer's agent. I started with the hire was intended to be a showing partner. If you don't know what that is, it's somebody that would just be opening doors, really, and maybe with some light administrative things like helping schedule and going to inspections and things. But they were primarily to keep me off the road. And so I hired my first buyer's agent, and let's call her Susie. Suze. That's what everybody will be named. I hired this person, and I started having them shadow me on showing homes. And pretty quickly, I got to a point where I was like, okay, cool, next step. And the reason I kind of moved a little too quickly in that moment, I think, was because I was burnt out at that point. I was tired of driving around and looking at houses and opening doors for people and having the same conversations. If you feel like you're stuck in that moment and all you want to do is take the next step and move forward, then somebody comes along and seems like, well, they could take that off your plate and you could do that thing. And so it seemed like a good idea. But I didn't put that person through the right training program to be a showing partner first to earn the right to work with buyers. I just said, oh, okay, they're ready. They're ready. They're ready. They're ready. They're ready. Specifically, I remember standing outside a house that I was showing to some first-time homebuyers. And these first-time homebuyers were referred to me from a sphere, somebody actually that Patrick knew, and had referred me some other business. And we were in this circle of friends, and I had been referred. And so I was helping them find their first house. And I remember showing them a property, and this person, this agent that I had hired, was shadowing me. So they hadn't actually started showing homes for me. They were just shadowing me. But I remember having a conversation out on the front lawn with the buyers about whether or not they liked the house and kind of going through that. And, at the end of a showing, you're trying to determine, is this something I need to go write up an offer for? Is this something I need to do a market analysis for? Or are you guys not interested at all? So I'm having this conversation and Susie is standing there listening. And I remember thinking in my head, gosh, I could just tomorrow start having Susie show property for me. And then have her writing the offer. Because they liked the house. They wanted to write an offer. So what did that mean for me? It meant it was already probably 6:00 at night. I was going to have to go home and open my computer and write this offer. And which meant I wouldn't be able to do anything personal when I got home. I'd have to just scarf down my food and then open my computer back up and make sure I got this out on time. And so I just remember standing there and looking over at Susie thinking like, she's my savior in this moment, that I could just start utilizing her as a buyer's agent. And she could be the one doing that at night. And that would be so much leverage. Then I could actually do what I want to focus on, and I could actually grow a team. In that moment, that weak moment of feeling burnout and frustrated that I was going to have to go home and do this, I made a decision to just go ahead and expedite Susie's path and give her the right to be a buyer's agent. Keep in mind, Susie had no real estate experience. This person was a brand new licensed agent right out the gate and had only been with me enough to shadow me on a few showings. In any other, I think back to this time in my career where I was making some hiring decisions, and I think back and still I think to this day, like, is this person qualified for the role that you're hiring them for? And I know that in that moment, the answer is 100% no. But I still allowed my feelings of both drive to succeed and frustration and burnout to take over. And so all of a sudden, Susie was my buyer's agent. And from that point forward, if I had a buyer lead, Susie was the one calling them to follow up and set an appointment. And that actually meant people like that first-time homebuyer couple who were personal referrals of mine. And I ended up giving every piece of buyer business that I would have normally had that year to Susie. The problem with that whole thing was Susie was not qualified to be a buyer's agent. And all that personal referral business I was supposed to get, I was outsourcing to somebody else. But what I didn't realize at the time was I wasn't just outsourcing the time, I was outsourcing the relationships. And I was losing focus on the most important part of real estate, which is the relationships with my database. That story ended fine. Those buyers bought that house. Of course, I knew them and I knew the circle of friends, and we continued to do business together. And I ended up working with multiple family members, and they ended up selling their house with me. But I have some other stories where it didn't end so positively with Susie. I'm not going to get into any of those. But when you give away your business, your book of business, you are literally giving away the asset that you built, instead of just focusing on how to leverage your time and train people and hire the right people. And so I have a lot of lessons around that first buyer's agent hire that if I could go back in time, and I don't have many regrets, but this is one of those moments where if I could go back in time, I would definitely make a different decision.
Yeah, you basically, what you ended up doing was, because they were a brand new agent, and not being held to any standard, such as bringing in their own business. The only business they were working was the stuff you were handing them. So instead of paying someone basically an hourly rate to leverage anything off of you, you were giving away half of your business for an entire year.
Well, and think about...
And also setting it up, like we say this all the time when it comes to clients, but it's also true with employees. You're setting a tone and a standard for how this is going to work. And you can't do that and then take it away.
Yeah.
Because or change it, because then they feel like you're taking something away from them.
Yeah. Well, you can, but that's what that ends poorly as well.
Right.
But yeah, that I often, when I look back at these stories and these lessons, this one was it was a poor decision in a moment of weakness. And then once it started, though, I didn't realize the impact that it would have. Like when I first started,
it was like, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. She wrote up that offer. She had asked me a few questions, but it was only 5 minutes of my time instead of all of the rest. And now tomorrow it's supposed to rain all day tomorrow, and I don't have to show those properties. I can focus on getting more listings. Yeah. Awesome. This is working. And
I remember actually, what we're talking about here is you're giving away your biggest asset that you have, which is your relationships and the referrals, to somebody who hasn't earned them yet. And then because it's a new agent, they also don't actually have the experience. So you said 5 minutes. No. I remember pacing around our old house pool patio and just at nighttime, like I can see it in my head. It was night. There are string lights hanging and me just pacing around that patio.
Yeah.
On the phone with Susie, answering questions, helping craft negotiations and all those things that go along with working with buyers. Now, here's the thing. You might say, well, you still didn't have to go out. Yes, but what I was doing was the job of the buyer's agent, but I was paying somebody else the rate of a buyer's agent.
Right.
And that's the part, like, if you get nothing out of this lesson, is the part that people should be compensated in direct proportion to what they contribute to a transaction. Mm-hmm. And it is really easy for other people to think that they deserve more in this business, because look, it's a hustle, even for people on a team. Like, you're running around and you feel like, oh, I should be earning more. I'm talking about other people, and I can understand it because I have lived it. Mm-hmm. But what they don't know, what team members don't understand, is what it took to get to a place where you could even hire them,
especially a brand new agent. And
what they don't understand is all of that work that went into that was building that database that you got to work for free, and building the systems and processes so that you never have to think about anything but opening a door and writing a contract.
Right.
And this, no one will ever really understand if somebody joins a team, or if you're on a team and you're listening to this, like, you never fully understand what goes into building a business unless you have actually done it. And so you'll always have probably team members that have like a little bit of entitlement feelings, but you create the environment of entitlement when you start handing deals instead of letting them earn opportunities. And there's a difference between, hey, here's my new listing, you can hold it open, instead of me holding it open, and now you have an opportunity to something that you wouldn't normally have. Or, hey, I'm going to be sending out a 40 touch program to my sphere and past clients, and I'm going to let you also participate in that at no cost. Hey, I've trained this person to be an awesome ops person who's making sure that everything happens behind the scenes and that your transaction closes on time, and all of these things that go into having a business, you get to participate in. And then you get paid for the part that you do. Mm-hmm. And so by handing off an actual deal instead of an opportunity to earn a deal, you create an environment of entitlement.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I guess we could go down 100 rabbit holes about everything that was wrong about the hiring process and putting them in a situation that they shouldn't have been in because they hadn't earned it or done the steps, the 30, 60, 90, it's so far removed from the way that you hire people now that it's hard to even think about. So I want to talk about like the why you decided, outside of like burnout or whatever, like you could have been burned out and you could have kept her as a showing assistant. And every time you got a new buyer, they could have done that. And then you could have piecemealed out other responsibilities depending on the job and paid them accordingly to that. But instead, you just decided the only way this is going to work is if I give her all of this business. Where did all of that come from versus her just finding her own business and having you as basically a mentor that she could ask any question and have an answer in 2 minutes versus an agent out there trying to do it on themselves with nobody to talk to?
Well, I know where you're going, and it comes down to like self-doubt. There's two sides to it. One was truly like, let me fast track this because why not? She seems outgoing. By the way, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like that's not a job characteristic that is necessarily useful.
It is only because as listeners know, you've had other people who are like, oh, I'm not really much of a phone dialer.
Right. I take that back.
So
being a more outgoing or people person, let's say people person, in a agent role is a good quality.
Yeah.
But what I mean is that doesn't mean that they're right for the job.
Right.
Just because somebody is like more outgoing than you. But it came from two places though. One was truly wanting to fast track things. And the other was feeling like if I'm going to hire people, I have to be providing value. And this is I think at the core of probably anybody who's ever hired someone has probably felt this, where you feel like the only value that agents want from you is leads. And so you feel like you've got to provide all of these leads for people to be on your team. And
so you were just giving yours away.
So yeah. And here, well, I'll come back to what I was about to say.
I'm sorry. You weren't giving away leads.
No.
You were giving away clients.
Clients.
Not
I think
leads.
that's the distinction. And what I was trying to illustrate with the open house example, it's not an opportunity to convert a lead. I was giving away my past client, repeat clients, my sphere referrals.
Right. Somebody that she sold a house to 5 years earlier and has kept in touch with the whole time, wants to go sell their house. And so Kathryn would take the listing and then hand the buyer side to the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Let the buyer's agent go do the buyer side of that. Now, this did not go on for years, by the way. And this was your first real hire when it comes to, and you said it was like one of your first hires, I think in the story, but like first buyer's agent.
Yeah, no, I said first buyer's agent.
Okay.
Yeah. But we all have this kind of self-doubt, imposter syndrome feelings along the way. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I still have that. Like Pat catches me on it all the time.
Yeah.
And yet I feel like after 20 years that I finally do see my own value in a way that I haven't in the past.
It took a really long time.
So imagine like 10 years into the business and I have one admin.
What would happen is Kathryn would, I can tell you exactly what would happen. You'd have your one admin, they would be doing their thing. And you felt like, even though you were doing well, you weren't doing as well as that person or that person or that person. That's a problem, right? And then you would say, well, I don't have the number of sales that I should have why would anybody listen to me? Why I have to supply these people. Like, I don't think you didn't take your knowledge as being worth what your knowledge is worth. Even 10 years into the business, as versus a brand new agent who has no skills at all. That's just one part. The other part are the systems in place to be able to do it. The use of the admin, the marketing, all of that stuff was all just not, you didn't see the value in that because you thought that the only thing that the buyer's agent would see value in is you handing them money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a deep core belief that I had for a long time and struggled with.
And I'm sure we have a lot of listeners that feel this exact same way.
And it's not that I don't think, I'm not really a self-conscious person.
No, that's the weird, that's the weird part of it is that Kathryn would say all of those things and feel all of those things, but put in a situation with another agent about what's right and wrong, she would go out of her way, knowing that she was right, to show and prove that she's right about things. Like there was never a rollover kind of an attitude or anything. It's like you knew you were right, but when you were right. It's like you knew all of those things, but yet somehow there was not a value. You never saw a value in that towards another agent.
Well, when you say right about things, like, I just want to clarify for our listeners, like, I am the person that people go to, and this has been a problem, but like, I study a lot, I read a lot, I go to a lot of classes, and I always have. And so like, people do say like, well, Kathryn will know the answer.
Yeah.
And it's generally true.
For years and years, she's been the go-to person for that in her brokerage.
And I know that about myself. Like, I do know the answers to everything, more so than most people because of all the work that I've put in. And I know that. But there's still this thing that exists that we as real estate agents, I think, feel. I don't know if it's like just our industry or what, but we always never feel like we've made it or we're good enough. Well, I say I'm just speaking for myself, but I think a lot of people feel that way. So even when you have a success, you get an award, you reach some sort of milestone that you believed was. And
when I get there, then I'll be.
Yeah. And then it's not enough. And it's not, there's always something else. And so
it took me us having this conversation for years and years before it all started to click to where it's like, oh, I do have something to offer. And
it's not that I didn't think, that's what I'm trying to illustrate. It's not that I didn't think I had something to offer. It was, I did not know how to communicate that. And I also believed that other agents didn't care about any of that.
Yeah.
They just wanted leads.
Yeah. And it wasn't so it was all give. It was almost like this attitude of hiring people. Like I have to prove that I'm worthy so that they come and work on my team. Mm-hmm. Like they're doing you a favor kind of a thing versus we're doing each other a favor. I'm going to teach you.
I'm doing you a favor. How about that? Don't get me started.
I'm hiring you.
If you're a brand new agent and you're joining a team, you will be there for a very long time before you're actually contributing in any sort of way.
Right.
That's the truth.
And that's what you're building for as a new agent. And when I said we're both doing each other a favor, the favor is I'm going to show you the right way to do these things. You are going. And I'm going to go, and you're going to be able to use all of my marketing and all of my systems and all of the right ways to help build your client base. And the favor you're going to do for me is you're going to build your sphere. You're going to make your calls. You're going to go on appointments, and you're going to bring business into this business. Not you're going to just sit around and wait for the phone to ring and I hand you business. That's not what, and I guess it's those kinds of things where it took a really long, and I think you knew all of that. It wasn't like you didn't know that. It was just this internal struggle of, maybe not, like you said, not being able to explain what you had to offer outside of leads.
Yeah.
To people.
Yeah.
You know? So do you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
All right, let's take a quick one.
If you're enjoying this episode and want more ways to seek your best, not just in your business, but in how you spend your time and energy, there are a few easy places to connect with us beyond the podcast.
Over on YouTube, you can find us at Seeking the Best Pod. We share full episodes of the show, short coaching clips, reviews of real estate products, and tips on building a real estate business that actually works in real life. We post videos on Thursday mornings.
Or find us on Instagram at On Seeking the Best. There we post behind the scene moments, short practical tips, and some of the real unfiltered stuff that doesn't always make it into the show.
And if you're looking for episode supplements like the Candy Bag, where Kat posts more in-depth ideas that we discuss on the episodes, head to onseekingthebest.com. You can learn more about us, buy some Seeking the Best merch, or send us a question that we'll answer on the show.
However you connect with us, thanks for being here and keep seeking your best.
And we're back.
Okay, so lessons learned through this first buyer's agent hire. The first thing that comes to mind was that, and I learned this like that next year, like at the end of that year, I understood this very clearly. I made less money
That's
doing
a good
more
way to
sales.
Learn. Yeah, you made way more sales and way less money. And the price points being about the same. And you're just like, what? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a business lesson. It's a business lesson to, there's a lot of like, we talk about hiring and roles and earning the right and opportunity and all these things. But at the core of your real estate business is your profit and loss statement. And it is a business. It is supposed to have a profit. And I had a profit.
Susie had a good year.
Susie had a good year. Yeah.
Susie
Susie promoted that she had a good year for a long time after that. And
was like one of the highest new agent earners in the brokerage that first year. Like she was a rock star. Little did anybody else know every single one of those deals was somebody that
I think there was one or two that were open house or sphere. There was a couple. Right. There was a few.
Okay.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the point. So your profit and loss statement. So did I make a profit? Not if you took out me paying myself a salary. But
right. The business didn't make a profit.
Yeah. So, and why? Because as I learned and grew, so I knew that very clearly looking at the paper, right? And the taxes, doing the taxes and stuff. But what I learned through many more years of studying the business models is that my cost of sale was too high because I was paying cost of sale on business that I had earned from my database referrals that I wouldn't normally have been paying, but we didn't actually do more. We didn't do more sales through that person. Right. We did the same amount that I would have done on my own.
Right. You just gave away half.
Yes.
Half the money. And
so, I mean, you can do all the math and understand that when you have your cost of sales too high, or your that would mean that you're paying someone too much for the work that they're contributing. Or they're there and they're filling a time gap. So I also had convinced myself during that time that, but Susie's leveraging my time. Mm-hmm.
Except she wasn't
I'm
because you were still walking around the backyard.
Yeah.
Showing she was a new agent. So leveraging, like there was no like, well, this person's got 10 years experience, so at least I don't have to.
But that's what I'm getting to is I paid too much for what it was.
Right.
So what was the person contributing? They were making too much of a split, and that's why the cost of sale was too much.
Right.
Now, had that person brought in their own business on top of it, that would have been a different story, but they didn't. They were just handed stuff.
And because they were just handed stuff, they weren't going to the following year either, because you train them not to ever, that they don't have to do that, right? So it wasn't like, well, once they get things rolling, there was no getting things rolling. Yeah. There was no systems. There was no benchmarks being made of how many contacts did you make this week. Yeah. There was none of that, right? Because she was too busy to even think about doing those things, because she was working 4 buyers at a time or 5 buyers at a time, because Kathryn was handing her every single buyer that came through the door.
And so the first and most important lesson was about profit and understanding cost of sale at a much greater level than I ever had understood before, because I didn't have much of a cost of sale other than splits with my office.
Right.
You don't understand cost of sale until you start having agents on your team, and then you're paying it out and you're like, that's a lot. And they say the same thing. They're like, well, it should be me. But it's your business. It has to have a profit, and the profit needs to be enough to have paid you. So like, I don't want to get too in the weeds on profit and loss statements because this is a podcast, but
we don't want people to go, I'm done.
Click. But if your profit is like, a lot of people do what's called below the line salary.
Be careful. You keep backing up with, let me explain. No, I'm almost done.
So if your profit margin didn't include actually paying yourself, that would mean you'd take that out of the profit. Well, then you still have to pay taxes on all that money too.
Right.
So like once you start to add people, you very quickly realize how important profit margin is. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that was lesson number 1, was understanding how, you add people, you're supposed to grow your revenue and your sales. You got to watch that cost of sale.
But there was no growing of revenue and sales. It was just the same, because it was the business that there was no business being brought in by the other people.
Yeah.
It's why people join teams thinking, I'm just going to get a bunch of leads. And it's like, that's a failing business model. Nobody does that. If you think I'm a new agent, I'm just going to join a team, I'll get a bunch of leads, you're sorely mistaken, because anybody that would try to do that would fail. The business wouldn't make any money. It's like, because they'd just be handing out. Now there's different platforms, and once a team gets to be a certain size and blah, 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 we're not going to get into any of that. The point being that this agent, because of the way Kathryn set it up, was never going to bring in their own sales.
Well, they didn't have to. They didn't have to.
Because they didn't have to.
And I say all this understanding, like, I did have some system in place where there was supposed to be business coming from that agent too. And I had like, and I still use this to this day, like buckets, like there should be some buckets, but the bucket wasn't full enough. Right. And that's where the first lesson came in. And
until it got to and then we got to a point where obviously that Susie doesn't work for them.
Susie doesn't work here anymore.
And hasn't for 10 years. So, because you saw what the numbers were and been like, well, the only way to fix this.
Well, that's not why Susie doesn't work anymore, but that's not a story we're going to get into.
We're not going to get into that. But the point along with that is, the only way to stay is to bring in your own business, and for Kathryn to not hand hers out anymore. And that is the taking away.
And here's the second lesson. Okay. So the first lesson is just understanding profit and loss at a much greater value and what cost of sale does to profit, understanding that. And the second lesson was about, your database, like understanding that is like one of your biggest assets. Literally, people buy businesses strictly for the names on the list.
Yeah.
I'm currently reading an investment book. Nerd. And
calling yourself, at least you know.
And the guy was describing an investment deal that he bought, and one of the main assets was a list of 16,000 clients.
Yeah, book of business.
People buy businesses for the list of clients that they have.
You don't hand it out and give it to people. Give it to somebody who especially haven't earned it.
And so you have to think about if you're going to give away, because I know there's people out there that still do talk about like giving your buyer's agent like your business. Like, how are you ever going to get out of doing buyers if you don't leverage that? So that's a separate conversation, because I do understand that. Like, how do you ever get out of buyers if you don't?
You don't do it when you're in your 5th year and hiring your first person. Okay. That's something that we can all sit and talk about when you're working your way to level 7, right?
But there's a place for that. And somebody who, if you're bringing somebody in that has experience, that you trust, that you're bringing in as like a partner into your business.
Well, that's true too.
Who they're going to, if they're like a partner in your business, well, then they're bringing their database and you're combining your database, and you guys are going to share in that. And maybe they're going to specialize in buyers.
Yeah.
But that's what, when you give away your clients or your referrals from your clients, that's what you're doing essentially, is you're giving away one of your assets of your business to somebody who you would never actually invest in a business with, right? So why would you do it like that?
Yeah.
So my lesson of that was understanding that your database is part of your assets. And if you, like, there's also systems and processes, right? Like the reason I have a very like mostly word of mouth referral repeat client business is because I have systems and processes that keep in communication with them over time, that when it's time for them to do business, they don't call anyone else. And so when you're giving that away to somebody, you might as well have just chopped up part of your business and sold it. Oh, wait, you didn't get paid though. They didn't pay you for that deal.
Right. If
So-
you paid for it.
Right.
You paid you said, here, why don't you take this? Here's half the money too.
Well, and again, I was convincing myself at that time, well, I was still leveraging the time aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so I was spending less time with them, but that wasn't worth what the cost of it was.
No, that's
and
an hour.
long-term-
That's an hourly rate.
Yeah, exactly. And long term, the cost can be very damaging
Sure.
to your business.
Of course.
Now, like we said, like Susie doesn't work here anymore. But there are situations where there have been damages done to the business through me making those mistakes and people not knowing what they're doing and calling the wrong person.
Right. Right.
But we're not going to get into all that. So yeah, and I think the third lesson is what we kind of touched on before the break, which is your value as a real estate agent growing a team is not the leads. Your value is all of your knowledge that has gone into getting to where you are to be at a place where you could bring on another agent and they have the opportunity within your business to make 6 figures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You might not be the guide that can take somebody to the top of Kilimanjaro, right? But when you're with somebody who's never been on a hike before, you're going to make sure you can at least make sure they don't die. Right. So, and that's what you're offering. Like when you're not going to the top of Kilimanjaro with a brand new agent that you're hiring off the street to be on your team, you already know 100 times more than they know.
So
and
actually,
your job is to keep them alive, and you'll do that. Your job isn't to make sure that they're the best that can get all the way to the top, because it's going to take them years to do
hold
that.
on. I love Patrick's analogies. And this one is perfect because I wouldn't go to the top of Kilimanjaro with any person I've ever hired to be an agent. And that actually is a lesson in itself, right?
Yeah.
You want to go to the top of the mountain. Maybe you don't hire the brand new agent off the street who knows nothing.
Right.
Because I don't want to die along the way either.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so lesson number 3, are we on lesson number 3? No, lesson
No.
number 4. Lesson number 4 was about the relationships have to be earned. And
Yeah.
I think this also ties into
this is a big one. This applies up and down the board.
yeah.
It applies to agents that you hire. It applies to your admins you hire, and it applies to people you work with, to clients.
Yeah. And I think relationship, it means the relationships that you have an opportunity to work with, but also like the roles. Like these things, they're not just assigned because, well, you happen to be here. And so I could use some help.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's the keys to the office.
Turn off the lights when you're done. Yeah.
They have to be earned. And I think about even like vendor relationships and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would I think about, this is another good example. Would I allow my best clients, the ones that refer me, they refer me, they use me all the time.
They ask my advice.
They trust me exclusively. Would I test a new vendor with them?
Right.
No.
Somebody who calls you, I'm sure our listeners get this. Hey, yeah, I'm a new I'm a plumber, a new plumbing service in town, and I'm looking for clients. Do you have anybody you can send my way? I'm a new contractor in town. I'm a new lender in town. Can you send them my way? Would you do that with your people that trust you? Absolutely not.
No, and I've never actually
chance.
never thought about that and said it out loud. But no, I wouldn't. And why? Because you're untested. So the same goes for this. Like, you can give new agents opportunity with listing leads, with open houses, teach them how to go fish, all of those things, and let them go make mistakes on other people and let them make mistakes on their own sphere
and see if they can do it.
Because the biggest lesson in all of this is honestly that your reputation and what you've built and what you're building is the most important thing. And you have to be very careful who you let inside that circle. And sometimes you're going to make a hiring mistake, but you can prevent the reputation damage or the business damage if you're careful with letting them earn in the right instead of just like, here you go, let's do this.
Yeah.
And those are some hard lessons that literally cost me financially. I did have some reputation damage from that. Now I have recouped that with the person I'm thinking of. But there's just a lot that can happen, and you have to protect your database like what it is, which is an asset. We talked
it's your number one asset. It's
well,
not just
we talked all
asset.
last season about time.
Yeah.
Well, time might be your number one asset.
Right.
Because it's the one thing that you can really manage and you can make more relationships. You can really utilize. But once you've spent all of your time, the way that you can actually scale your business is through relationships. And
look, there easily come a time once you hire somebody and they've earned it, right? They're following the systems you've put in place and the terms that you've put in place for how many filling the buckets, how many people they have brought in, and they're earning it and they're doing it. That's how that agent earns your trust. And that's how they earn the opportunity to maybe work with one of those people when you get to the point where you do want to stop working with buyers or whatever it happens to be down the road. But it's certainly not something that you hand over because you feel obligated like you're supposed to, because that's what agents want is leads. And so I have these leads, I have these clients, so I'm going to give them to them so they come work on the team. But that's okay, because that will free up my time so I can go and get more business. That's not the way to do it. Speaking from experience.
Well, and just I think we've made this clear, but I'm just going to put it back in here, is like, understand your own value that you bring to the table and that you are giving someone a great opportunity. I have helped several agents make 6 figures. Some of them I did the right way. Some of them I did the wrong way. Actually, I take that back. I've done them all the wrong way.
But they still made 6 figures.
I've done them all the wrong way in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. One, by hand feeding them. And then even after I realized that mistake and did things differently the next time, what I realized, and you touched on this when we first got started, is standards.
Right.
Allowing my standards to erode and not showing up and
holding them accountable to what was necessary to be on the team.
Yeah.
Letting it slip, letting them slide.
And can I tell you why? And this is maybe a different episode, but it ties into this like self-doubt thing. Is like, you believe that you have to set this, when I at least I did. So I hope this resonates with somebody or helps save someone time. When you start hiring agents, you feel like you need to set the standard like lower than what would be like a good buyer's agent. You set the standard a little bit lower because you think you don't want them to fail. You don't want them to fail because then you'll feel like you failed and you'll have to start over again. And all of this like cycle of lowering your standard to meet somebody else is like the number one lesson across maybe everything I've ever done, is like, I have a very high standard personally of how I live my life, and I let everybody else do whatever they want.
Well, that's the thing,
and blame myself for it.
That's the thing, right? You said it. You said. So I lowered this. What the standard would be for a good buyer's agent, and I lowered the standard. So all I heard was, so you don't want a good buyer's agent,
right?
So
but that's basically
this
what
is the
you've
standard
decided.
for a good agent, and so you've decided for your business. You don't want good agents. You want bad agents.
And then whatever your standard is, here's the worst part.
They come in under. Right.
And you don't do anything about it, at least for too long. Let's put it that way. Like eventually you do. But
which is why the team has started over.
Listen, I'm sharing the moments
so if
and
you're
the
listening
patterns.
to this and you're like, I want to be on Kathryn's team, we're giving you a perfect direction sheet on what will work on this team and what will not.
Well, because let's go back to the lessons. The minute you get your real estate license, you have created a business, whether you realized it or not. And you're going to go out there and you're going to be hustling for several years building that database. You're going to be making a sphere list. You're going to be doing every open house you can find, calling expireds, calling FSBOs, and starting to have some sales. And then you're going to start to get referrals. And then over the course of some years, you have built a client base, something that is saleable. And you've built systems and processes, whether they're messy or not, on how you're going to handle those customer experiences. And if you've done it well, it's a saleable asset. And so the minute you decide to bring other agents into your organization, and I say agents because they are the notorious ones to steal your business and not stick around and whatnot, but
they're also the ones that are out there where money is involved with directly with a client versus a paycheck with a admin, and because they're out there flying on their own and doing that, they're the ones who could really hurt your reputation by lying, by saying something that they shouldn't be saying, or by going behind your back, changing what you've put in place, the systems you've put in place, and making up their own.
Or that's
not going to happen so much with an admin, because at the end of the day, the admin is getting a paycheck from you and you're watching everything that they're doing and everything that they're saying because... What?
I think you're right that you're watching the admin a little bit closer because there's an accountability system. You do well, I pay you,
right,
etc. But with agents, there's for some reason, even though you are still paying them, they're getting a portion of commission or compensation, whatever word you want to use these days. And they're still getting paid from your business for doing things for your business, but it just is different. And so there isn't as much accountability around what is said, how they make people feel in the experience. And so I'm going to digress for just a minute. Okay. We'll probably run a little bit long.
No, we're totally good.
And I'm actually not digressing. I'm like taking it up a notch.
Okay.
I was just thinking about experience. And when it comes to reputation, your reputation is built around like not just the results you get, but also the way you make people feel. And so I've heard a couple different stories that like just make me feel so bad from agents that have been in my team before. And one of them was, and I've lost business because of it. And one of them was this agent, this buyer said that the agent who was showing them properties didn't look at the house at all. And they felt like that person did not care at all. And they didn't want to work with us anymore. And I felt like a knife to my stomach because like you didn't look at the house, like you didn't walk around. Now this is
they just opened the door and stood outside.
Yeah. Now this is a he said, she said situation because of course the agent on my team had a different story. But that's how you made them feel. One way or another, they felt that way in that moment. And it was a knife to my stomach because
they felt that way so much that that's what they decided to tell you.
Yeah.
Like it could have, like, it wasn't like, oh, we just decided we're just not going to buy a house right now or whatever. They went out of their way to say, this is how I feel, which means that
that's how they felt
to such a degree that they said it out loud.
Yeah. And then I had another situation where, this person had actually closed and I was following up as the business owner to say congratulations and how's everything. And the person said that they did not feel like the agent was acting in their best interest, that they kind of felt like they just wanted them to buy a house and like this was good enough. That is damaging to your business.
Yeah.
Now, that's the relationship. I just said I salvaged that, and that person now comes to my client events and all the things. But those are those things where you don't really like know that in the moment.
Now, that could have been you salvaged it. You're a good agent. You're a caring agent. You've been doing this a long time. You got to salvage that. But let's just say that person was referred by somebody else in the friends group. And also think of the track of business that could have been lost if not handled the way that you handled it, or who that person could have been connected to in the sphere group.
But that's the whole point of this episode is that
you have to protect your sphere so much.
Your sphere and your past clients are your business. They are your business. And so be very careful about giving that to somebody to handle.
Right. Yeah. Period.
End of story.
The end.
Make it simple. Your best move that you can use, not a grind. It's a tip that saves you time. Your best move.
All right, it's time for this week's best move. One simple, smart thing to focus on this week, not a giant to-do list, not something that takes hours, just one move that actually helps move your business forward. For the month of June, we are doing buyers and boundaries, and your first one is tighten your pre-approval conversation. You'll protect your time and set expectations early. Yeah,
so when you meet people, one of the things I hear new agents do all the time is they immediately are like, are you pre-qualified for a loan? And then if the person says no or yes, it doesn't even matter. The agent's like, I can send you some recommendations. And it's like, nobody asked you for that. So hold on a second. So when we say tighten your pre-approval conversation, what we mean is tighten up. What questions do you need to have answered to feel like you've got a good sense of their financials? Question?
I have a question.
He's raising his hand.
Are you talking about LP Mama?
Yes, part of LP Mama is, do they have a mortgage, right? That's location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment. But if you say, are you pre-approved for a loan? Let's close into question.
Right.
So will you be paying cash or obtaining financing? It's not open-ended, but it's a good way to make them feel maybe a little bit more comfortable because you didn't presume. Will you be paying cash or will you be paying with financing? And they'll say financing. Oh, okay, great. And then you're going to ask them some other question like, you could say, how many mortgage people have you spoken to yet? Or when do you hope to get pre-approved for the loan? Or you can ask a million different questions, but the point is just tighten up what you're going to say. Now, when I'm talking to someone, I don't just go straight for, are you pre-approved for a loan? I try to get a better sense of them as a person. Like, what's your job? Right? Like, I'm using more rapport building questions because that will kind of guide me to whether or not there are red flags around financing.
Right. So you work this out long enough to know what the answers that you're looking for are. And you're doing it through normal rapport building conversation to get to those answers without or to get to those answers without asking a list of questions on the other side of the phone or face to face, where you're just kind of burning through these questions and getting answers to them to decide what you're going to do next. This is a long conversation that you're having without actually asking any of the questions.
I always say this,
Be
but
a
like
human.
Be human, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody's like interested in a house, like what's got you interested in this house? And they say, well, my kids go to school down the street. Great. Where are you living now? And then they tell you, and, what do you do for a living? Like, these are normal questions that you ask people.
Yeah.
And then, so if they say what they do for a living and they're like, oh, I work for, I don't know, some tech company in your area. And you're like, oh, okay, great. That's exciting. That sounds like an interesting career. How long have you been at that job?
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking them pre-approval type questions without saying, have you talked to a lender yet?
Yeah.
By the way, people don't know what lender is.
Right.
That's like, I do believe that's like and I still make that mistake sometimes to use that word, but
it's too like businessy. It's too businessy.
Be a human being.
Like,
but what are the questions that you could ask to assess that situation? And then once you're getting to a point of setting the appointment, definitely say like, oh, so that we can be best prepared for our appointment, will you be paying cash or obtaining financing for your next purchase?
Mm-hmm.
And then they tell you financing. You're like, great. Have you already spoken with a mortgage person, or will you need recommendations? See, I'm not asking for permission. I'm just saying like, oh, I've got a great lender I'll send your way. Like we get too ready to tell people how to finance something instead of just listening to like their personal situation and then helping them.
Number one thing, right? Know what you want at the end, and then just ask a bunch of questions. Instead of trying to force some sort of list onto people.
The LP vomit is just there so that you remember the things that, guide you to whether you should have an appointment or not. It's just an acronym. It's not a list of questions.
Right. Kat, you got a small win this week?
Yeah, my small win is that I've worked out for 2 days in a row.
Oh, yeah.
Which for me is a pretty big deal. I'm lucky if I work out once a week, once every 2 weeks. So 2 days in a row, I'm very proud of myself. I'm trying to get fit for the summer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You'll be one of those, what's that called?
I don't know. What are you saying?
Hot girl summer?
Hot girl summer. I don't know what that is. Called?
Fit girl summer?
Fit girl summer?
I don't know. Look it up. It's something.
Okay.
And then mine is we started to get the furniture in for the guest house. I've been putting it together, and because there's only a few pieces that come fully assembled, those are the expensive ones. Everything else comes in pieces. So I've been Allen wrenching for the last few days.
And it's looking lovely.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to have our first guest in July, I think.
I know. I got to get some stuff there finished up.
Get towels and the things people need.
I know.
But hey, before we sign off,
can
I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Because I think this is a big conversation. Like I probably could talk for many days about understanding your value, because that's really the core of this is like, what's your value as your database, but also for you personally. You bring something to the table. And so if you're ready to make a hire, whether it's administrative or agent based, whatever it is, I think it's a good exercise to write out like, what are all the things that your business brings to the table? There's, I learned this like later, but there's some people actually have like a spreadsheet of things that they have, like that, whether it's their administrative costs or their marketing budget, or they like have a list of things that they provide for teams and an actual dollar amount. Like for you to recreate this would be, X hundred thousands of dollars.
I've seen that before. Yeah. I think you've done
I've done it.
That before, right?
Yeah. Since all of these experiences, you start to learn like you do have value beyond leads, so much that you don't even realize. And until you actually sit down and write it out, you don't really realize it.
And not only do you not realize it, but you're going to have a hell of a time trying to explain it.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the problem when you go to build a team. Like, yes, why would they want to be a part of your team? Like, what is that? What is the
and do you
vision
really
of your
wa-
business?
And do you really want the person, when you go through the whole list of all of the things, all they care about is the lead part? That's because I got news for you. That's not the person you want on your team.
And I would agree, but also understand. And if you're a new agent listening to this, there's more to running real estate business than leads. Yes, it is the core of what you need to actually have a business, like to have sales. But there's so much more that teams provide that actually brings you more like value than you could ever imagine.
Teach a man to fish.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah. Like,
I hand
do
you
wanna,
fish all
if
day
you
long,
want a
but
career.
Do you want a career, or do you want to just be?
Now you can have a career on your own. Again, I was a solo agent for a very long time, and you can have an amazing career and build it all yourself and everything. But at some point, if you want to have additional people, start thinking about what is all the value that you bring? How are you going to articulate it? And who are the type of people that would be in alignment with that? And then make sure you know how you're going to have them have the ability to earn opportunity, not just hand it off.
Small win. Small win. Hey guys, for episode extras like the candy bag, ask us questions, or anything else we mentioned today, you can find it all at onseekingthebest.com. And for Kat and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll figure this all out next week.
Bye.
Make this quest the one you manifest. No more unrest. I pass the test, cut the excess. Keep what's next. I won't regress. I'm too obsessed. Seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the best. Seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the best. Da 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 dum.
This has been a Think, Live, Be production.